What are you seeing on film from their defense?
They do a good job. They're really, really well coached. Coach Solid does a good job, and he's done a good job for a long time. They fly around with the ball. They're very physical. So it's going to be a good test. I mean, I think when you watch, I know they've had personnel changes throughout the season, but I mean, they play extremely hard. They're disciplined. You can tell they know what they're doing within the scheme. So I think they've done a good job at this point. They did a good job against Seattle. I know they gave up a lot of yards, but they held them out when they needed to. So it's going to be a good test.
When you have a team like that that's had a bunch of injuries at the
hmm
same position, how do you balance trying to attack what might be a weakness versus not getting out of yourself?
I think you said it right there. You got to be careful. You don't just chase it, right? You gotta really just be in tune with what you want to do and what their scheme is about. Maybe not so much players at times. You can do some things, but you got to be careful. You don't push all into that because ultimately they're going to do what they need to help their players as well with their scheme. So if they feel like they need to change, they may adapt too. So you just got to be careful with that.
If you do get Lane back on Sunday, what does he allow you to do that you normally can't do when you have a Hall of Fame caliber player there?
Yeah, I mean Lane's the best right tackle in the game. So if we get him back, it's tremendous. He'll add so much to everything, just even his leadership, his play style, ability, run pass doesn't matter. It'll be a tremendous lift for the whole entire offense, and I think you'll feel the energy if he's out there.
As far as the scheme, is that 23 game against the Jets instructive at all this week, or because it's different personnel?
Yeah, I think you always look at just past games against coordinators and different influences they have on stuff. I know he wasn't the play caller that year, but obviously it was still his defense. So you still look at always past games and past history things when you go against opponents that you're kind of familiar with, because there is some things that can pop up. But yeah, you look at that.
How much of a luxury is it to have a quarterback who's got so much postseason experience, Super Bowls and playoff games?
I think it's great. I think when you look at our whole team, we've got a lot of experience in different spots, which is tremendous. And so going forward, it's gonna pay dividends for us for sure. And his leadership in those moments and ability to, I've been here, I've done that, is really a big lift for us on offense. That he can handle anything that's going on out there in the moment.
What did the Jets do well that day that shut you guys down?
We had a bunch of turnovers. I think like four. So that was kind of what went on. And then just on third down, we were just kind of choppy a little bit when you look at it. But taking care of the ball was something that we did not do in that game. In the red zone, we didn't finish a couple of those drives.
When things, have you studied Kyle much over the years in terms of what he does from a system, and what do you think of what he does in the operation?
A little bit. I've watched some of their stuff and some of the guys that have come off that staff. I don't really know him too well, but they do a really nice job of just everything coming off the run game and kind of play action and exploiting teams in that area. They like to do what they do and really press into that. They do a lot of different personnel changes and things like that. But I don't really have a ton of background with him in that kind of system. The 49ers currently, when you watch it, I mean, they do a really nice job of just mixing, as far as they're trying to show you shells and then take away certain players. So that's really what they do a good job with.
Is there anybody, Mike asked you about Shanahan, is there anybody that you would say is the biggest influence on you as you became a play caller?
When you go back even through my history as a coach coming up, I think Chan Gailey's kind of somebody that when I first started, he really took me under his wing and just watching him do different things, and we were in different places together. We had a situation when I was with Herm Edwards. We had no quarterbacks, and we went down to Tyler Thigpen, who was our third string quarterback, and he only knew a no huddle system, and he really never called plays before, and we ended up switching the entire offense in the middle of the year to basically going a spread no huddle, which nobody was doing in 2008 in the NFL, and did the pistol. We were the first team to do the pistol, and Chan was all about doing whatever you had to do to win the game. And so I quickly learned that from him, and I was obviously with him in other spots, and then being with Frank in Indianapolis was a really good play caller and set up things really, really well. And then just being here throughout my time with everybody and just kind of going through the process. I think those are kind of the people you just kind of pick and choose and things. And then just watching in the off season and when you get some spare time, other play callers, like Sean and McVay and Kyle and these other guys do a really nice job of setting things up. You just kind of watch and see how they do their things.
My point seems like flexibility mid-season and changing things week to week, which is what you guys have done.
Mhm.
When you go into the playoffs, I guess to call it proverbially a bag, like what are you reaching into? How much is there and how much of that works, and kind of how you looking at that in this game?
I think game by game, right, you're just doing whatever you need to do to win the game. So we will do anything and everything we have to to put our players in a position and to give them a chance to execute and win the game.
Do you think that the resting two of the three guys in the interior of the line will help them in terms of mobility and what you guys have done versus what you haven't done in terms of moving them, pulling them, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, Nick talked about the other day, resting guys. Anytime you can rest guys, it gives them an advantage going the next weekend. And I know mentally, all last week, those guys were into it and trying to help everybody out and really still getting mental reps, which is obviously one of the biggest things, too, at this point in the year. You don't practice as much as you do early in the year, whether you're playing or not. So you got to get all those mental reps as much as you can going forward. So I think all the guys being in tune to even what we were doing last week and just being, available and pushing through meetings and everything like that was a big help for them.
Kind of along those lines, like how valuable was it also for you to kind of like start planning ahead towards, who you guys might be playing, obviously now the 49ers, but were you able to kind of get a jump start, maybe figure out some things that, wasn't working or not working as well as you had hoped?
Yeah, so throughout the week last week, we kind of had to balance certain things we wanted to look at going forward. Some of it was look at ourselves. Some of it was try to just see who we may be playing. Obviously, it transpired later in the week, but just kind of look at those types of things. And then, the middle of the week, I was focused on a lot of just the game to try to help those guys within the game and play the best they can. And then some of the other staff was working on the opponents we may be playing. So we tried to really spread it out to get as much done and really have a little bit of a jump this week going forward.
When the offense has been up and down inconsistent throughout the year, what makes you confident that you could find more consistency at this time of the year and peak when it maybe hasn't always happened during the regular season?
Yeah, I think really up to this point, our whole goal has just been win games, and that's what we're trying to do is win as many games as we can, and obviously now it counts even more. So as far as game planning and going forward, right, it's whatever we need to do is what we're going to do to win the game. So I think we've spread it out to do totally different things from game to game, week to week, and so that's kind of where we're at. We'll just do whatever we have to do and keep pushing forward.
You mentioned
overlooked when it comes to Nick in terms of just what he brings to the team every week and uplifting his.
I've been here obviously with Nick, and I was with him in Indianapolis. I think just week to week, day to day, his energy, his passion, his everything that you want in a leader that stands in front of this team in team meetings and at practice, he gives you, right? His attention to detail. We talk about core values all the time, toughness together in detail and all that stuff. And when we look at those things, that's what he embodies, and he brings that to the team. And every day he's consistent in who he is. You're not going to get somebody that goes back and forth on what they say. And I think when he speaks, everybody receives it and they're ready to go. And I think that's the biggest thing is his leadership and his detail. And when he says something, everybody knows it's time to go. So I think it's impressive from what he's done from 21 until now, the amount of games he's won and the changes and the things we've had to do within the roster, whether it's staff, roster, ups and downs throughout a season. He's done a tremendous job in giving everybody the opportunity to do their best, whether it's players, coaches, everybody. And that's what he's all about, is giving us in this organization a chance to win each and every day.
The 49ers play a lot of nickel. Do they do that based upon a lot of the personnel that they've seen, or are they willing to kind of like, even against maybe heavy personnel, stay in nickel?
They do both. If you look at game to game, I think there's certain games where he went a little more base, and certain games will be a little more, nickel to almost everything. I think it's probably more philosophy going in with them. That's kind of that system. He's done that before in the past, other places, Coach Sala has been. So they do a little bit of both.
You mentioned that Tyler Thigpen story a couple times, how it made you guys shift. In some way, that's an extreme example, but last week, in some ways, does that help you sharpen when you have a different group of players you got to prepare?
Yeah, I mean, last week was fun because those guys got to have an opportunity to go play against, starting defense, everything like that, and go try to execute. So, pushing a plan, getting a plan in place, and giving everybody an opportunity to do their best in moments. And, a lot of those guys hadn't played. Obviously, Cam going against Von Miller at right tackle. I mean, this was legit stuff in game that, we try to give them, the best opportunity we can to succeed. So going through that was fun because you're trying to find different ways to let everybody kind of show what they can do and have opportunities. And we had some opportunities, so it was a fun game. The energy was up, and it was a good moment.
I'd like to ask two questions about this past game. The first being getting the snap off quicker. Was that an initiative? Was it something that was the byproduct of this game in particular? And then also short yardage situations. Is the play calling different in terms of, the tush push or the quarterback sneak when Jalen's not in there?
So to answer your last question, we did some things what we wanted to do in this game with short yardage. That was a little bit different just because we felt like, personnel wise and what they had done, we kind of wanted to change that up. And then as far as the getting the plays off quicker, I think really it just came down to how we structured some of the play calling as far as getting it into Tanner and how they were kind of orchestrated the line. We didn't have as many things available for him to go through, so that kind of made a little bit of a difference.
Okay.
Good. Thanks, guys.